Namaskar dosto, good evening friends. I am Dr. Sanjay Kalra, your friendly and familiar endocrinologist. And you're watching Dr. KK's Med Talks, Pharma Talks with Dr. Sanjay Kalra. ये हमारे non-stop show का 893rd 893वां episode है. And of course, this is Pharma Talks. Our non-stop show is called Med Talks. Let's talk about today's theme. Making India healthy, the role of the pharmaceutical industry. Now, see some headlines from the last week. Presently, the Indian pharmaceutical sector holds a significant share of global vaccine production, 60%, 60, and it satisfies 40 to 70% of the WHO's requisition for diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis, and BCG. So that means 2/3 of all vaccines across the world and 2/3 of all the requirements of WHO are met by India. This commitment to healthcare has resulted in a 36% reduction in our disease burden, as measured by DALY's Disability Adjusted Life Years from the year 1990 to 2016. There is also a 50% surge in drug accessibility in the country. India also plays a pivotal role in battling AIDS, HIV/AIDS across the world. We supply 2/3 of all antiretroviral drugs. We also satisfy 90%, 90% of the world's measles vaccine requirement, and we have been able to make ourselves polio-free through collaborative efforts between various stakeholders. During COVID-19, the entire world came to a standstill, but Indian pharma came up to the occasion, and we were able to manage supply chain disruptions despite national lockdowns. We were able to solidify our reputation as a dependable partner in ensuring steady access to vital medicines across the world. And evolving into a global leader, the Indian pharma industry now commands 40% of the US generic market and produces 25% of all the medicines used in the United Kingdom. Now, these statistics are great, but who are the people behind these statistics? And who are the people who run the industry, the pharma industry, which makes India so proud? Let's welcome our guest for today.
Hello, doctor. Pleasure to meet you.
Welcome, Mr. Kulkarni.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Thank you for being with us. Warm welcome to you from people across the country. But allow me to introduce Mr. Kulkarni. Mr. Makarand Kulkarni is a seasoned professional in the realm of pharmaceuticals. He is project management officer for strategic projects. Okay, so that means I can learn strategy from Mr. Kulkarni today at Sanofi.
We can always discuss.
And he brings a wealth of expertise in managing complex initiatives with precision. His proven track record includes work in planning, leadership, and his deep understanding of the pharmaceutical landscape is something that we'll want to learn from today. Warm welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Always a pleasure.
Our topic for today is making India healthy, the role of the pharmaceutical industry. Of course, many people are involved in making India healthy, and we welcome everyone logged into Pharma Talks today. Bimla Kapoor madam se aapko good evening aa raha hai. Dr. Vipin Bandula is a civil surgeon at Kangra district in Himachal Pradesh, a very picturesque part of the country. I wonder if you've been there before.
Not really. Would love to.
So we'll do that sometime. Pragati Malik ji saying a very excellent initiative. The talk is wonderful. The topic is wonderful. And Dr. Rameshpal Singh Pawar, sir, is a 70-year young pediatrician from Saharanpur in Western Uttar Pradesh. So, Mr. Kulkarni, I am reminded of this concept from Ayurveda. It's called the quadruple of Atreya. So Atreya was a senior physician who postulated the quadruple. What he said is that for successful therapeutic outcomes, 4 angles of this quadruple have to be equally important. An example is you are sitting on a chair, standing at a table. All 4 legs of that chair or table have to be equally long, equally strong. And what he said was the doctor, the patient, the attendant, that is whoever the caregiver is, all 3 have to be equally important. These are all people. and the fourth is the drug. Exactly similar thoughts are echoed in the Tamil classic Thirukural, which was written by Thiruvalluvar. And again, he postulates the quadruple of Thiruvalluvar, where again it's exactly the same four things: the patient, the physician, the people taking care of the patient, and the drug or the pharma. So these four P's coming up now. Was this relevant only in the time of Charak or Thiruvalluvar, or is it relevant today as well?
First of all, thank you so much for starting this whole conversation with the ancient wisdom. It's also personal passion for me, and always I think it makes things interesting. I would, of course, I'm not qualified to add one more leg to what the ancient sages have mentioned, but I would like to say that all the four elements certainly are relevant today, but in the modern times, there is a fifth element which has come in. And that fifth element uh, is technology, uh, the ecosystem where technology exists, and I would also mention about the infrastructure. So it's the healthcare infrastructure and technology is a little abstract concept, but I feel that it plays a major role in really binding all the four legs of this chair together. Is all I would say.
You're very right, actually, because we have a new concept known as the quintessential quincunx. In this quintessential quincunx means a quadruple with a dot in the center. So here the person comes in the center, the person whose health we want to promote, whom we want to protect from disease. And
Right.
surrounding that patient are the physician, the pharmaceutical product,
Right.
the people taking care of the person, that is the caregivers at home or maybe nurses, and also the planners, the policy makers. And
Absolutely.
then all these angles, they are interconnected. And what you're
Yes.
saying is, how do you interconnect them? The ecosystem, the physical ecosystem, also the perhaps the e-connection, the way we are connected today, all this makes a difference.
Exactly. Because maybe a few years ago, uh, if you just talk about healthcare, what really would come to mind is the four basic elements what you mentioned. But maybe pre-COVID, even few years pre-COVID, if you challenge anyone that look, there is a fifth element, and this fifth element is some strange software which would bind you and me together. This fifth element is some technical stuff which would ensure delivery of life-saving medications to someone's house. It would have been hard to imagine. So doctor, what I'm trying to emphasize here is that it's not only the physical parts of the ecosystem, but there is something which is more there in the cyberspace, which is a concept, an idea, and a service which is enabling and bringing all together. So, to just simplify this point, is I think now, as we appreciate this, we start using it more. It's become an integral part of this whole process, and it's very important. What maybe I would just like to add one point and give it back to you is we always see this from an individual's perspective. I mean, if I talk of healthcare, first I think of me, my family, and the people around me. But even today, this technology, which is enabling convenience, to see this, I mean, be it Zomatos of the world or Swiggy's of the world or even Tata 1mg or whichever e-commerce service which we have, technology is making things faster and convenient. But if I go back to the quadruple, what you mentioned, I think it's high time that this infrastructure, this technology should penetrate down to the masses, to the villages. And tomorrow, if it's impacting that, I think we have arrived. If it's making life convenient for us, I think it's just the beginning. If it's saving lives for millions, I think then we have arrived. That's the only point I would like to add, sir.
We're on the right path. Uh, Sir, warm blessings for you from Dr. Nanlal Sharda. Sir is senior physician from Ahmedabad. And Dr. Vipin, of course, was with us from the very beginning. Now, more P's that they are adding. Dr. Bandula adds the P provider, that is paramedical staff. So it's not just the physician, it's the entire team. The nurses, the pharmacists, everybody contributes to health. And Dr.
Right.
Sharda sir adds the icing on the cake. He says the sixth leg is prayers. So spirituality
Wow.
as well. That is something we should
Absolutely.
not forget. So thanks to
Absolutely.
both Dr. Bandula and Dr. Sharda.
Truly
Dr.
touched.
Utsav, yeah, Dr. Utsav is a diabetologist from New Delhi. He is logged in. He thanks you. He says that Sanofi is doing a great job in the field of diabetes education and also in the field of vaccine awareness.
Thank you
And
so much
the
for
P,
acknowledging that.
yeah, the P that he adds is partnership.
Wow.
So is this right, Mr. Kulkarni? So earlier, maybe once upon a time, when let us say things were very primitive, the most the most influential person in the village would have been the Ojha, the the faith healer, because he held power over everybody's life and over their death as well.
Yeah.
As we moved on, then maybe the school teacher or the postman became the most powerful person in the village because he held the power of communication, the power of education. So
Yes.
the postman's arrival was celebrated. The teacher was considered the guru, and things have changed. Of course, we do have villages. We have big villages as well, where you live. Mumbai is one big, huge village. So who's the
Hmm.
most powerful now? Is it the person in charge of prayers? Is it the service provider, the paramedic, the physician, or is it the person who creates partnership? Who is it who's the most powerful today in Mumbai?
Interesting question. Uh, Maybe I'll give a quirky answer first. Is that I think the most powerful person today is the influencer on any digital media, because the power which the digital influencers have today is phenomenal, and we have probably not realized that it's making phenomenal shifts in mindsets of people, the way we look at ourselves and healthcare both. But okay, that's a little more on the lighter side. To answer your question, I think the most powerful person or the thing today is the access of information. It's not a person, but I think the sheer this new phenomena of access of information is very powerful. It's a double-edged sword, and this information access uh, is from all corners. So initially, you had probably a very central focused ecosystem where, as you said, the OJA or the principal or the teacher or the policy maker would have a say. No longer is the case now. Now, if you ask me who's ruling, difficult to answer. But the point here is that uh, there are multiple ways of influencing, and there are people who are influencing each other. So that's making it things complicated. So there is no single unit which is the most powerful influencing body. Is all I can say. I hope I have not sounded it complicated, but that's the situation today.
No, what you're saying is perfect, actually. It's focused on reality. And a compliment for you from Mr. Walker Palladian. He says a fantastic session, and thank you for your answers.
Thank
Dr.
you.
N.S. Sharda sir points out that the level of technology, access to technology, quality of technology, that also varies from place to place, person to person. So that may influence your answer. But the
Absolutely.
P, like you said, the influencer, that is the propagator, the person who propagates, the
Yes.
persuader, the person who persuades. And if you are a powerful, persuasive person, or if you're a persuasive person, then you automatically become powerful. So that's another
Very true.
P that's getting added to.
Wow.
And I'm sure Charak and Thiruvalur will be happy actually. They won't be upset. They'll be very happy that we are building upon their models.
True.
Now, let's move on to another track. Now, earlier, both you and I, we studied Newtonian physics, which is a very reactive, a very linear kind of a thing. So, one action, an opposite reaction. One thing moving in one direction, another thing moving in another direction. But when you
Yeah.
study Newtonian physics, you tend to remain in a linear, in a binary kind of a picture. Then somebody came out with Einstein came out with quantum physics, and in quantum physics, what they say is suddenly it's mass, like you have mass, and suddenly it disappears. It becomes energy. You may not be able to touch the energy. Of course, if you touch the wrong energy, you can get electrocuted, but it's there, and then the energy can convert back into mass. So this was something difficult to digest. But let's put it this concept, Newtonian physics versus quantum physics, in the context of what you've just said. So earlier we had a linear kind of a hierarchy. This person
Yes.
is powerful, that person is less strong, and that person is at the bottom of the queue. Now what you're saying is everything together. So is this true in pharmaceutical development? Like for example, maybe we know who developed the polio vaccine, who developed chickenpox vaccine. But now, when a new drug comes in the market, we don't know who has developed it because there are so many people required to develop a drug. What kind of changes are occurring in the development of drugs in the pharma sector?
Uh, Thank you so much for raising this topic, sir. In fact, truly exciting times, and gone are those days when when we visualize a typical scientist sitting with a spectrophotometer and test tubes in the hand in the corner of a pharma company and who's developing medicines and sometimes frustrated and sometimes getting success out of it. I think now the wings have really spread. uh, People have really gone very lateral when it comes to drug development. uh, I'm not an authority on drug development and research because I come largely from business and projects background, but I can give a little bit of highlight on this. That there are two, three major shifts which have happened really in drug research. Number one is uh, drug research has moved out of one company to even creative startups. There are a lot of organizations which I would call them as, they initially research was probably the privilege of large pharma companies. No longer so. What happened is you'll find, especially in the West, that there are a lot of boutique research organizations. They are started by brilliant scientists. They start somewhere from the backyard or kitchen. They get funding. They have brilliant ideas. They develop on it, and they come up with a molecule or even a concept. What happens is they have access to the larger pharma world. They approach the pharma companies. They work together in collaboration, and it's a win-win for both. Uh, because it's a win for the pharma industry, for a pharma company, because they have their innovation spreading out of just their lab across the globe. That's one. There's a win-win also for the small-time scientists because he or she didn't have the infrastructure with them, but a great idea. Now they have access to the infrastructure and funding. So this is one part. Second is there are a lot of good collaborations happening between pharma companies and institutions. Like we know that institution like say IIT in India. I mean, why go far? Uh, they have IIT has a great incubation center there. So IIT collaborates with pharma companies for some win-win ideas. IIT has brilliant minds, but many times, companies like some of you or even any other company for that matter, has a lot of people who have experience in not exactly into drug discovery or some innovation there, but they would partner with them to see that how does an idea see the light of the day? How does it get converted into a business plan? How do we get funding? How do we get access to more people? So one is institutions, second is the small time scientists mushrooming up and building their labs. Number three is the third trend is inclusion of artificial intelligence and technology. There's someone whom I know. He's a part of my family. In fact, he developed a great software a few years ago, which he was telling me other day over a cup of coffee that it has reduced the time in oncology research from some, I think, 6 months to 45 man days. So it is, I think it's a huge difference. Just imagine that if it can really crunch timelines, and this is a software, it's an imaging software which helps scientists to actually really fast track research. So one is technology, second is the next door neighborhood scientists connecting with the pharma world, and number three is collaboration between the academia, institutes, and the pharmaceutical companies. I would say these are the major shifts which are changing things. And last but not the least, which just came to my mind, is uh, gone are those days when companies used to compete against each other for research. That who gets the molecule on the deck first. In fact, I think companies have become very pragmatic and very open-minded. We can see two competitors joining hands together for the benefit of humanity and also to accelerate research. I can give a couple of examples. Won't like to really name companies here, but really amazing stuff happening. And I think that's really great stuff.
That is nice to hear. So instead of a competitive approach, we now have a collaborative approach, and
Absolutely.
the final endpoint is the health of humankind.
Yes.
Many
Very true.
things coming out of what you said just now. One thing is that no individual is strong enough, no matter how brilliant he or she is, to create a new drug today. There are so many things involved in it. So therefore, you need the help of like-minded people. That's one thing. You need people together. There is something known as Kleber's law. We can talk about that later. Why is it that there is a Silicon Valley? Why is it that there is Bangalore? Why is it that you need people together in one setup or in one building when supposedly, theoretically, you can connect with each other on Zoom or StreamYard or email if you wish? So, what is Cleaver's law? That's one thing we can discuss later. Another thing
Sure.
is that the role of technology is important. Repeatedly, Mr. Kulkarni has said that you need technology to help you out. The software. So, if you're a master of technology, you know how to use it. You move faster in the road towards innovation.
Yes.
I'm reminded of this Hindi song, and let's ask everybody in the chat box which movie is this from? Who's the hero? And the song is Newton, ek din seb girega. Newton, ek din seb girega. So, Newton, the apple will fall one day. So, does Newton wait for the apple to fall so that he creates the law of Newton's first law? And what do modern Newtons do? Newtons from today. Do we wait under the apple tree for the apple to fall, or do we go out and reach other people? Do we go out and master technology? What do we do? Good evening, coming your way from Mr. Vinay Gupta and also Mr. Mukul Gupta. Mukul Gupta is one of the leading pharmaceutical industry innovators in Haryana. Also, Dr. Nilesh, who is an expert in digital therapeutics.
Right.
So, we are speaking of technology, we are speaking of communication. Another question now coming up is digital therapeutics. Is digital connection used only for developing drugs, or can you use it for other things as well? What does the word digital therapeutics mean to you?
No, I think it's a very wide terminology. It ranges from the use of digital technology in development of a therapy. That's where we started from. That is drug development. It moves on to digital diagnostics, because that's also a very big emerging field now. Then the third stage after development diagnostics, the third part comes healthcare management, and fourth element is awareness and providing information. So these are the four areas: is information, awareness to the patients. Second is drug development. Third is diagnosis, and fourth is the management of overall healthcare. These are four areas.
So, first of all, the digital arena or digital communication helps you in promoting awareness,
Yes.
knowledge about a specific disease. It helps in
Yes.
diagnosis as well. And we have examples from diabetes, for example. Uh, Earlier, what used to happen, my patient would check his or her glucose, and I would get to know only when they came to tell me in the next OPD visit. But now, through the cloud, the moment my patient checks his or her glucose, I get to know. In fact, there are machines, CGMS, continuous glucose monitoring. The patient doesn't even need to check. The machine checks it on itself. So every 15 minutes, there's a glucose value coming in, and we can find out real time. So that's for diagnosis. And
That's right.
management, of course, you have people to help you through digital therapeutics, which, it helps ensure that you take your medicine in the right manner, you follow the right diet and exercise, and you keep your behavior normal. So multiple things are there.
Absolutely. In fact, maybe if I can add a couple of interesting examples here, I would urge upon all the participants today to, of course, I'm not a brand ambassador of IBM, nor that there is any commercial connection there. But very interesting thing, there is something called as a IBM Watson Cloud, which I'm sure most of us are aware. If you haven't come across this, please do Google and check it. That IBM Watson is just one example. There are many other, which tells us that there is a big amount of data which is generated from every moment of digital therapeutics. If the moment a person is diagnosed, moment a decision is made, moment a drug is delivered to somebody's house, is all data points. So these digital data points, uh, they are, uh, I would say, anonymized, because for the benefit and the secrecy of the patient, and this data gets collected and it makes sense somewhere else. So how does this data, what we call as big data, is helping scientists to do research, is helping doctors to diagnose better? You should just take a look out of interest in the IBM Watson data cloud. Second, two, three examples I can give you is if you know of Visa. Visa is amazing stuff, not related to diabetes, but it's related to more in psychiatry and psychology. Visa is brilliant. I think Miss Agarwal, she was ahead of her times. She's based out of US. She made a brilliant app, I think more than a decade ago. And today I can tell you, Dr. Khalra, that I'm talking with so much passion about it is because I've seen it in action. And it has some 5,000 algorithms which have been approved by American Psychiatric Association. It is a chatbot. It sounds like a very small thing, but it's a chatbot. It can diagnose most of psychiatric ailments. It can be a great psychologist, clinical psychologist, which is converted to a chatbot. And yeah, I mean, it is purely based on real-time algorithms. This is digital therapeutics for you, sir. And uh, couple of more Headspace. Headspace, what started as a simple, innocent app, uh, right from which was just used for controlled breathing or pranayam or even meditation, has now getting into approval from US FDA as a digital therapeutic tool. It won't be far that even Apple has. I mean, what is a Apple Watch is actually a diagnostic tool. It has ECG. Then it can even track periods uh, for women. It can alert you for a lot of cardiometabolic disorders. And what I've been told is that a lot of outputs which come from an Apple device, they have been verified from, I don't know whether it's true, but even by US FDA. So we don't know that the next healthcare company might not be even a pharma company. Uh, is where we are heading towards. Uh, these are very anecdotal examples. Uh, what I was trying to mention is the questions which you asked about digital therapeutics. Digital therapeutics has really gone far and wide and is just beyond uh, an innocent app which you see on the mobile to really something which is happening.
So things are improving at a very fast pace.
Yeah,
And the future of diabetes care, the future of healthcare in general, is something that we look forward to with a lot of excitement. Vinay
absolutely.
Gupta ji shares the name of the movie. It's Dr. G. So that's for
Wow.
Vinay G. So Dr. G is the name of the movie. Aishman Khurrana is the hero, and the song was Newton ek din सेब गिरेगा. So Mr. Kulkarni, ये जो सेब गिरेगा, ये यूएसए में गिरेगा या इंडिया में? How is India doing at the global level?
No, I think फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल सेब गिराने वाले काफ़ी इंडियंस है वो इंडिया में हो या यूएस में हो. So that's good news. We have a lot of Indian talent, which is the Indian diaspora is everywhere. So I feel that yes, of course, the West is ahead in a lot of ways, but I think the gap is closing, sir. और अगर ये सेब अगर गिर रहे हैं तो you never know the number of सेब जो गिर रहे हैं, it's more on our side than the West
Yeah.
soon.
So one thing we realize is that now it's not just one apple anymore; it's multiple apples, and
Absolutely.
it's not only apple; it's pears and oranges as well. So healthcare is coming in different forms. It can come
Yeah,
in the form of a tablet or an injection. That is what was available earlier. But
right.
now healthcare can come in the form of an app as well, or maybe a cloud-based regimen. So it can come in different ways. Second is it's not necessary that there has to be only one apple harvester and only one apple. You have multiple people working together, not in a competitive spirit, in a collaborative spirit.
Absolutely.
I'm reminded of this concept, dependence. So there was a time when we were dependent. We had masters from abroad. Then we became independent, and that made us stand up with pride that now we are independent. But a higher level of existence, a higher level of evolution is interdependence. So let's say I were to say that I'm independent from Mr. Kulkarni. Certainly, I can be independent, but I will lose out on so many good things that I can learn from him. The moment I accept that interdependence is at a higher pedestal, so we are both dependent on each other, we both learn from each other, that is for mutual growth. Is this concept being understood in the pharma industry?
No, for sure. I think if I have to really apply the model of interdependence in pharma, it comes in many ways. Because it's within the organization, because first to start from there, because we really feel that, and when I'm saying we, it's the industry. Uh, there were the olden days where there was an era where we used to say that pharma industry, if you have to be successful in as entrepreneur in the industry, you should be a great manufacturer, because great manufacturing means great business. Then, after that, there came a era where if you to be successful, you should be good in marketing or in sales. Then you are successful. But suddenly we saw that there are other elements which came in, that it's not about selling or it's not about manufacturing, it's also about who has understood your customers better and who offers better service, either to patients, to doctors, to for enhancing clinical practice will be more successful. So what has happened, a doctor, is that uh, it was a one function department led industry was always a hero, no longer so. Now the industry has understood that for a successful existence and growth, there should be a good interdependence coordination between functions to make it really a well-oiled machinery. Moving out of the industry and coming outside, uh, it we had one era where there used to be the uh, pharma industry used to dominate, because the healthcare people were at the mercy of what drugs are available today. They were at the mercy of what prices they are available today, and also sometimes so the power used to kept on shifting. It when the industry was relatively young, and there were dominant players, and there was not much of options available. Then it moved to a lot of companies coming in, medicines being made accessible. Then the power shifted somewhere else to the authorities. Then after that, I think it shifted back to the people now. And of course, at the center of this is the healthcare practitioners, the doctors. The point is, what I'm trying to say is that the interdependence is, I think, highest now, simply for the reason is the mindset has shifted from, as you rightly mentioned, that एक राजा बाकी सब प्रजा, ऐसा नहीं है अभी. So now people have understood, appreciated that if you have to move ahead, you have to depend on different factors, and it's always a matrix which moves ahead, not a linear system. And yeah, that's it. I think that's what I feel is today.
And this is true in every sphere of life. Even in
Sure.
politics, we have coalition governments, for example. And
True.
Mr. Vinay points out that a customer centric approach is required now.
Very true. True.
And
In
this,
fact,
yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
carry on, carry on.
No, I was saying that we, uh, and it all depends how do you define a customer, because for a pharma company, a customer can from vary from an hospital doctor to a stockist to a distributor, everything. What we now believe as an industry is, because for a pharma company, a patient is not a customer, because a pharma company cannot and should not influence a patient unless it's a consumer health product. That's a different ballgame altogether. So what we believe that, I think what should be at the center stage is the patient and the patient's ecosystem, patient's family. So I think if our efforts, if our thought process is more focused towards that, I think rest all is sorted. But I echo doctor's comment that customer should be centered for sure. Back to you, doctor.
Dr. Vishal Gala from Mumbai shares that earlier there used to be competition between various pharma companies. But now, with the advent of, you showed your Apple Watch, for example, Apple will soon get into non invasive glucose monitoring. So now it's going to be pharma versus IT. And many, many more players will be contributing to better health. And it's up to the customer to understand what is best for him or her.
Right. You're right. So in fact, I don't see that as a competition. In fact, I see this as a avenue for collaboration.
Because we can actually, if we strengthen outcomes, then
Yes.
certainly more and more people will want to use the means of strengthening those outcomes, of improving those outcomes, and everybody wants better health for themselves.
Absolutely.
Another person who is logged in, an industry leader, is Mr. Pramod Pisht, and he thanks you for your leadership in the pharma industry. He says that Mr. Kulkarni is a very respected person in his organization and beyond. There is one
Nice.
question, one challenging question from Dr. Bhandari, again based in Mumbai. He says that the whole concept of digital therapeutics is based around the use of technology. This technology is used to support healthcare interventions, so that you get better health outcomes and you minimize or reduce the need for drugs. Because, for example, if you can improve adherence to diet and exercise, automatically less glucose lowering or blood pressure lowering drugs will be required. So that means the drug consumption is going to come down. Now, his question is, will the pharmaceutical industry support such therapies, such software based therapeutic interventions?
For sure. Uh, I think that's a great question, and thank you for being so candid. And this gives me an opportunity to really throw some light on this, the way we look at it. First and foremost, I really feel that, and nothing wrong in asking this question, because probably a few decades ago, this would have been a critical question where a pharma company would really think that what happens if my consumption goes down. In fact, I remember almost couple of decades ago, there was a big study which was initiated by two major pharma multinational companies to understand what is the loss of business due to missed doses. And people end up forgetting doses. And and this study was conducted and it was quantified, and there was some initiative to really educate patients. And then they realized that because of this, the missed dosage came down and the consumption went up. Nothing wrong in that, but I would say that's really old world thought. I think the way now the pharma industry thinks is not the impact of missed doses on profits, but now I'm sure there are plenty of companies who think that what is the impact of missed doses on the health and the quality of life of patients and of the nation. And I really mean it, because the simple reason is that, sir, today if a medicine which any reputed pharma company is selling, and if we are not able to get the desired outcome of it from it, I think then we have not succeeded. If there is something else, it can be an app, it can be technology. If it helps the patient to get the best outcome of a drug, I don't see that technology as a competition, but as a complementing part. Second point, so I think the first stage is, if there is better outcome, the quality of life and the health improves. The next step is if the medication reduces. I think nothing wrong in that, because pharma companies have started looking beyond just selling medication to also partnering and being present in business models, in service models, which is beyond the pill, what we call it. It's a jargon in the industry, but we call it as service beyond the pill. How can we make a difference in the life of a patient beyond selling medications? So I think if tomorrow the need for medication comes down, we are more than happy for two reasons. One is that it benefits the patient, and second, it gives avenues for pharma industry to be present somewhere else, not just in tablets.
Mr. Walker thanks Dr. Bhandari for a great question, and he thanks you even more so for an equally great answer.
Thank you so much.
And the point is that when we use digital therapeutics, we are actually improving adherence to therapy,
Yes,
improving persistence with therapy. And if you look at it just from a number of pills point of view, that way the pills go up because people do take the medication that is advised to them. That is how digital therapeutics helps.
that's right.
Another industry leader from New Delhi, Mr. Puneet Chabra, he works in the field of internal medicine and allergy. He says one problem that we are facing now is that technology is a double-edged sword,
Yeah.
and patients misunderstand, misutilize uh, the options available, and they go to Google, they go to WhatsApp for diagnosis and treatment, and then they get in trouble. So, how is the pharma industry gearing up to prevent misinformation?
Great question again, and I think it's a serious need of the hour. And sometimes these things come up as anecdotes or jokes or WhatsApp forwards, but I think it's beyond that. It's a serious issue. The point here is that how can we stop it is a big question. Are we doing enough? Let me admit no. I think there is a big scope which the industry has to come together to uh, really fight this menace of misinformation, which is spreading probably faster than a pandemic. And yeah, there have been some sporadic efforts done by a few companies. Thanks to them, that they have been partnering hospitals and doctors to create unique campaigns. That I remember when I was out in the field long ago, that I could see some nice posters, very basic stuff, but very informative, simple posters in doctor's cabin, which talks about educates patients that why we shouldn't really trust random information and just going on a search engine, but it's important to get information from a trusted and from a authentic source. Moving from the posters to some social media campaigns, I see them very sporadically. But sir, let me tell you that what is needed now is a partnership at three levels: the industry, government authorities, and healthcare practitioners. I think if these three ends come together, who leads it is the question, but it has to be done. And any element which is missing from this triad will not make it effective. These three elements have to come together. I think then it's possible. And let me tell you that this very problem of the mass reach and the fast reach of social media, which is creating this issue, in fact, can help us. If it's being used for wrong things, I think if you have a right campaign, only social media can help it to reach to the right people in a speedy manner. So it's possible, but it has to be done.
The term that we use for this is quinary prevention. So when you go to public health, they talk about primary, secondary, tertiary prevention. These are the three classic levels. From Belgium, there is this concept, it's about 2 decades old now, that is quaternary prevention, which says that you should prevent over diagnosis, over investigation, over testing, and over management, over treatment of disease. Don't treat disease unnecessarily. Don't label it unnecessarily. And then from India, we have this 5-year-old concept, quinary prevention. Quinary prevention means that you should try to prevent misinformation and also promote the right information. And that's what you're saying. We need everybody, all hands on board, including the government, policymakers, and planners, to do that.
Yes.
And we should be able to use the social media as a tool for dissemination of right information.
Yes,
Uh,
that's right.
if you remember, we have Dr. Our CMO with us, Dr. Vipin Bandula, and he said that paramedics is an important P. Paramedics have to be taken care of. Dr. Vishal from Mumbai is involved in international dissemination of a nurses diabetes program for nurses training. So he asks, how important are these platforms and what's the role of getting different countries together? Let us say we have nurses from only India studying about diabetes, versus you go to another platform where the nurses from India are able to interact with those from Pakistan and from Turkey and Germany. What is happening in the multinational arena, in the pharma arena, and what are the pitfalls? What are the advantages?
Okay, I don't know whether I can fully answer this question, but let me try to attempt it. First of all, there is no two ways about the fact that I think it's finally the society has acknowledged and understood the role of paramedical staff, especially after COVID. We have seen that the paramedical staff, the nurses, have really fought the battle with COVID shoulder to shoulder with doctors, and the way they have stretched and saved the world. So I think people have now started understanding and appreciating the role of the paramedical staff in the healthcare ecosystem. But is there a structured program to connect the paramedical pieces of the globe together? I'm not aware. Uh, is pharma industry helping that? Even I'm not aware of that. The reason being is today what happens is pharma industry largely connects with someone who takes a decision for prescribing a drug, and that's largely the healthcare practitioners, the doctors. Uh, Paramedic staff come obviously are a part of the whole environment, but I think there is a scope for us as an industry to work with them better. I personally feel uh, large hospitals, corporate hospitals, and institutions would be the ones who would be able to answer this question. I'm sure that there are programs because with the large corporate hospitals springing up and with their global connect, I'm sure that there would be some programs or modules which connect the paramedical staff across the globe. And if it's not, then I think it should be done. Honestly.
And there are many activities that are going on, but of course the world is such a huge place, so multiple activities are required. And like we said, it's not just one apple, it'll be multiple apples and pears and oranges all working in tandem with each other, and then you get a finally a very good fruit salad. uh, Another question, or a comment rather, Mr. Walker says the pharma IT collaboration is already going fast. It's doing well, you're collaborating, but it's not visible at the ground level. How does the customer get to know? that pharma and IT are collaborating together?
No, I think it's the reason is because we are really far away from uh, impacting the common man, and which is I think we are getting there. It's the pharma IT or the pharma technology collaboration today has started first within the manufacturing house. It is because there are two three areas where it can really impact. One is how do we make the manufacturing and the products and services more efficient. That's where today it is being used more. The second question is how do we make the services better at the ground level? So that is the place where I think pharma has to really gear up. So Dr. Walker, I think we have not reached there, but we will be there for soon. How can we do that? There are two three ways. One is pharma is collaborating with the health tech. There's a new term now which is called as health tech. Now, pharma is collaborating with health tech partners to find out solutions that can we have devices, can we have softwares, can we have network services which can impact. Now, which are the examples? For instance, we know that, for instance, uh, Tata's have an arm which work with telemedicine. They have set up, I think, hubs at remote areas connecting, places like Pune, Mumbai, Delhi cities, where doctors are able to diagnose and extend medical practice, medical support and diagnosis. Now there are companies who would be partnering with such providers who have a infrastructure, technology infrastructure in place which can access patients. Pharma companies are trying to collaborate with them. There are companies who have uh, digital therapeutic devices, like what we call them as wearables. Now, we don't have pharma companies yet who are manufacturing wearables, health tech wearables, but they are collaborating with such kind of partners to see that how do we take these wearables, these devices to the common man. Pharma companies are collaborating with the e-commerce platforms and also service management platforms to work with to ensure that how do we make the life of a doctor much better in managing the patients and managing the maybe the prescription and beyond. So these are areas. So to answer your question in a nutshell, that what started from the manufacturing unit or the backyard of pharma company, the use of technology, we are moving forward to partner with such kind of experts to make the lives of doctors and patients better. But I think we are far from there. It will take at least 5 to 8 years to reach and to make a visible impact.
Dr. Bhandula points out that various apps are being used by the government to improve adherence to therapy, for example, in the tuberculosis eradication program. And Mr. Mukul from Yamnanagar, Haryana, asks, you've spoken about how AI is being used, artificial intelligence is being used. Uh, Mr. Vinay Gupta says he has seen QR codes printed on packets of medicines, which
Yes.
allow you to access complete information about the drug. And sometimes these QR codes also tell you the provenance of your drug, whether it's come from the right factory and how the cold chain has been maintained throughout its journey.
Absolutely.
So, Mr. Mukul asks, any newer things on the horizon? Artificial intelligence, will that replace doctors? Will it replace the need to go to a traditional prescriber?
So, first of all, to answer the first question, I'll just take it forward from the QR codes part. Uh, the QR code uh, are being used by some companies voluntarily. There is a news, it's not yet confirmed, but probably it's on the horizon that the government or the authorities, rather, the health authorities might make it mandatory for certain drugs or for certain categories to have the QR codes in place, which gives the right of information to the patient or to the doctor about the drugs and this information. So it's a great thing. So I think something which came out as an innovation will now soon become order of the day, and that's great news. So that's about the QR codes. What are new technologies on the horizon? Let me tell you that there are few things which will still be in the back end, but these are really great stuff. Is geotagging of goods. We have the blockchain technology, geotagging coming together. How does it help? For instance, there are some organizations, some supply chain uh, service providers. What they're doing is that, for instance, if a product is manufactured in a factory of a pharma company, it moves from there to a warehouse, from a warehouse to the CFA agents, which are carrying and forwarding agents, from there to the distributors, to the wholesalers, to the retailer, and then to the house of a consumer or a patient. That's the chain. Now, the point is, uh, there are technology which is coming up is which will enable us to track the full journey, the full life cycle of the product right till the end, ensuring that it has moved in the right way, in the right channel, in the right time, because there is so much attached to it. There is expiry of the product. Is a product which is expired still landing up in a patient's chamber or patient's home, which is definitely not advisable. It will also track, has it moved into the right conditions, right temperature, so forth and so on. So that the geotagging and the tracking and monitoring systems are great. That's coming up. Again, it will stay in the backend, but it will definitely be helpful, according to me. Some uh, new technologies which are likely to come, and it's right now it's still in the West, is there's something called as augmented reality, virtual reality. These things are coming up for patient education, for patient awareness, and so forth and so on. I straight away dive to the more difficult question, which is AI and will it replace a practitioner? Let me tell you one thing that I think uh, computers, when computers came on the horizon, I think is the biggest worry was that will it replace human beings, and will it become a master and we become slaves for that? We all know that what has happened is computers have become, I think, started from a size of a building. Right now, every phone is a computer, right? So it means that uh, computing as a concept has moved from uh, the masters of technology to someone even today who's a daily wage earner has technology in his hands or her hands. So my point is that what looks like a monster initially gets tamed very fast because human beings are programmed to self-protect themselves. Is I seriously believe that, and they know that their creations should be tamed fast enough to become the slaves and not their masters. There are debates still going on AI, and we have seen, especially the projects where the Neuralink project from Elon Musk's lab. There are
Mm.
controversies there, but I'm sure that it's a matter of time that AI will be tamed by human beings. And I can tell you, doctor, maybe in your next Med Talk after a few years, we'll be discussing this topic, that how AI has become a handy tool and not a replacement of for any one of us. That's my humble answer.
Point well taken, and this is a very optimistic view, but I think a realistic view as well. That we are the ones who have created this technology, and we'll be able to use it for the benefit of mankind, of
Absolutely.
humankind. Dr. Bandula points out that vaccine vial monitors are mandatory. So you can even now you can track a vaccine when it leaves the manufacturer's facility, and when it reaches the primary healthcare. From there up till it reaching the primary healthcare center, the VVM, the vaccine vial monitor, tells you whether the cold chain has been maintained or not and what temperature it was at any point of the journey. So thanks for
Absolutely. It
that.
is today. Thank you so much for bringing this point. You are right, doctor. This is restricted today to vaccines and biologics. And what now probably is envisaged that it should expand to even normal other medication also.
There is this concept of health equity, pharma equity. We have 5 minutes more to go. So, a couple of comments. Mr. Pramod Bisht, who is a leading pharmaceutical marketeer, he says he's a sales professional. He says, how will digital therapeutics address the issues of accessibility and equity, especially in underserved and remote populations of India? And along with that, Mr. Vinay Gupta says, sir, all these technical interventions come at a cost, but we need to make our drugs affordable. So, see, two questions coming up. We are speaking of technology, the pharmaceutical industry, how to make health better. On one side, there is a concern that cost may go up. And on the other side, we are asking how can we use technology to improve health equity, to improve pharma equity?
Sure. Uh, I'll quickly try to answer that. First, the pharma equity part, because if I've correctly understood the question, according to me, I think the equity purely lies, and it's directly proportional to the value which the industry adds to the patient's life. It is I think the day not only pharma but I think all industries we start thinking that what is the value which we have added to the patient's life and to the ecosystem rather than just the profit what adds uh, to the PNL or the company's kitty. And thankfully, I think most of the companies, the industry has left behind that thought that uh, people have moved from a profit centric mindset long ago to a value based system. So the competition is to add value. And I think if you add value, you will build equity. So that's my first point. Second point is about the technology being expensive. Let me tell you that uh, any technology goes through three stages. First is that it's only with the classes. Then you have technology partly with the classes and with the masses because it you have options that we have an option of uh, going for a phone which is very basic and you can make a call, and you have an option of a phone which is linked to a satellite. Uh, and both the phones exist today in this market. So that's the option we have. Going forward, what happens is that as the scale increases for any technology, the technology is tamed and it comes to the masses. So I think it's like a never-ending game. Technology comes in, stays at classes, then you have two models, and third one is go to the masses. So nothing to worry about it. It's a phase, and soon we'll have a time where people get access to best of technologies. And now to the first question, which is also area of passion for me, is that unfortunately today technology is has and that's what my starting sentence for in this program, doctor, that today technology has limited itself to speed and convenience. Any industry any industry technology has to move to uplifting lives and alleviating pain. I don't want to sound very philosophical, but one last point on this. It's sad to see that there are, drones are being used to kill people. Drones are being used to deliver pizzas. Drones are being used to deliver a pen by a popular marketplace to a customer. I think we don't need drones to deliver pizzas, bombs, and the pens and gifts. We need drones to deliver medication, to save lives, uh, and to reach villages. We have seen drone is just an example, doctor. I mean, there are many other things in technology. We have seen what drones have done in Mumbai in Dharavi. It was used by the police and the municipal corporation. It was an amazing tool. We have seen that drones have been the partner during the pandemic. So I personally feel that be it AI, be it drones, or be it anything, what happens today is that we tend to think from a convenience and a speed perspective. I think technology, we need to first think from, there should be a bottom-up approach, not top to bottom. This is my very humble point which I would like to put on table as we close this session. And it's possible. It's just a change of mindset what is required. And finally, maybe a last word from my end, Doctor, before I hand it over to you, is one P which has to be added to all the P's which you mentioned is passion. I think if there is passion at the grassroots level, if there's passion to save lives, if there's passion to touch lives, I think profits, equity, technology doesn't matter. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
So, with that P for passion, I think we come to a perfect ending of today's Pharma Talks. Thank you so much, Mr. Kulkarni. I'd like to thank everyone who has logged in today. Wonderful questions and comments. We apologize we've not been able to take all the questions, but I'll just point out what Dr. Bandula says, that the CoWIN app and UWIN app ensures that vaccinations reach the target beneficiaries, and you keep on sending reminders for the next dose through SMS. One
That's
can
right.
generate vaccine certificates also. That is the power of technology.
Absolutely.
And I think this is one way in which this comment was from Mr. Vinay Gupta. This is one way in which we perceive the value of technology. So earlier we would have had to go to the civil hospital, wait in line many hours, but now you can book an appointment and then you can get your certificate. You can download it at home. This is what value is. The only thing is we've become so used to it now in the past few years that we don't tend to monetize or make the value tangible. So it becomes a normal part of life, and I think that is part of growth. That's part of human growth. But it's been great being with you, Mr. Kulkarni. We have Faraz with us backstage. Faraz, could you please show a certificate of appreciation for Mr. Kulkarni?
Thank you so
Thank you
much
so
for
much
that.
for being with us. We have
Thank
people
you.
today logged in from across the country, various walks of life, and all of us have been enriched by, of course, whatever you've talked about. Our topic was how the pharma industry can improve health, and we are impressed by the passion that you bring to your work. Any last comments before we conclude?
Uh, I think just one word from my side is I think the passion should be kept alive, and the world is connected to entertain each other. I think world has to connect to save lives. That's all I would say.
That is actually the very basis of KK Med Talks and Pharma Talks. We connect with each other across the world. We are all bound by passion, by a mutual passion, and that passion is for better health. We want a happier, a healthier, a more harmonious, a more hale and hearty world for us. With this, I'd like to thank everyone for having logged in with us. Please do keep listening to KK Med Talks. Every Monday and Thursday are my days, and I'm with you. My name is Dr. Sanjay Kalra. Till then, goodbye and Jai Hind.